Alright, hello and welcome here to the first weekend rather, of Group 2 here in Season 4. Welcome to testing here at the Hungary. I'll be glad to join you, or I'll be glad to be with you today, rather. By Vacant, and I'll be your commentary today. Yeah, I'll be your commentary guy here today. We'll need to get back into the flow of things after taking a little bit of time off. But definitely looking forward to another exciting season of Group 2 racing here in LSR. Again, this is just a bit of our warm-up to get ready for the actual season in 2 weeks at Circuit of the Americas. So if you're just tuning in for that and you're new here, definitely be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And if you're interested in potentially joining, feel free to throw a comment down there as well, and we'd be happy to get you set up with a link to the Discord so you could potentially join us, and we could see you racing on track here in the future as we see the AlphaTauri of T34 FR making his way on his outlap. So he'll be the first to be setting a lap here in this qualifying session. Of course, we just run one single qualifying session, so all drivers are going to have to be sure to keep their heads on a swivel as they make their way around the circuit. Very tight, very technical, the Monaco without walls, as it's been called. And so certainly when they're on flying laps, they're going to have to watch out for traffic on their out laps, traffic on their in laps, and all sorts of things. But we watch T34 making his way around the circuit, and he'll be starting his lap shortly, coming through these last couple of corners. Coming through, I believe that's turn number 15 now, just to start the lap. Of course, this is where we're going to see the majority of overtakes be started in this race, and especially down this first DRS zone and down blasting into turn 1. Very important to try and get this right. You want to take maybe a little bit of curb, but not too much. Obviously, DRS right back open, just the one DRS detection point. And turn 1 and 2, especially, very important to get traction right out of there. Turn 3, we could see some battles coming through here, but as you come through 4 and up the hill, we're going to have to be careful, as there's the yellow flag for a spun Aston Martin. And then that blind uphill left-hander, just drop one gear and just get through there. Of course, got another very important traction zone here as you make your way through Sector 2. And through the chicane, we're in at about the midpoint of the circuit, and then you got the kind of S section here, right smack dab in the middle of Sector 2. Going to be really important to see how much curb these drivers are looking to take throughout the race today, as it's very easy to just have a little bit of a wiggle and just put all 4 tires outside of those white lines and get a track limits penalty. And then coming through Sector 3, really important to try and at least keep it close here. Probably not going to see a lot of overtakes as you pass the pit lane entry, but spun Haas and McLaren on their laps. But as T34 comes to the line to set the first time here in LSR Group 2 preseason, he sets it as a 119.154, which everybody will be chasing. Dodoligo there has spun in Sector 3. His teammate Kevprod is, I believe, either just starting his lap or is finishing his lap, and that's a 117.5, so that's a solid time for the Haas driver. As Viper Eyes just goes that little bit quicker, also a 117.5, but 600s faster than Kevprod in the Haas. I believe we got Omega coming to the line next in the Alfa Romeo. No, that is his teammate starting a lap. But it does show up as purple, that we have to kind of wait to check times. I will go ahead and pull up lap data as well, just so that way you have that. As Breakfast King now goes to the top of the order for AlphaTauri with a 117.2, so very solid in that number 7 AlphaTauri. Oreo African as well had an incident early on in that lap, so he just set a time of 133.4 as there's an Aston Martin spun on the front straight. Let's see, I believe that's James who will cross the line with a 132.4. But a big mistake out of that last corner is going to cause that time to be down as yellow flag in Sector 2. I believe that's an Alfa Romeo making way. Actually, no, that's Zercity having a spin, so from the Alfa Romeo driver. Probably just going up that blind uphill left-hander in that number 7 Alfa Romeo car. Dodoligo will dive into is still in the garage for Haas, as we have a Ferrari coming out at this as of right now. Looks like, I believe, the Williams will be the next across the line to start the lap. But it's definitely important to take a little bit of a look through the order. Of course, not all of our full-time drivers were able to make it today, but it'll certainly be interesting as we ride on board here with Kevin Cal, and he will go fastest, and he will be the first to jump up into the 1:17.1s. Definitely good to see that Mercedes on the front row, and that pairing of Kevin and Viperize, who may be teammates, if you'll give me a second to double-check that. Yes, that Mercedes team pairing of Kevin and Viperize showing a lot of strength early on. Of course, they will be teammates for when we actually get started here in 2 weeks' time. So that pairing could be something very interesting to watch out. You've obviously got Jim, 111, down in that Williams car, just making his way through Sector 2 and the S's now, taking a little bit of curb there on the left, and of course going to be down through this quick right-hander and down into this braking zone. But his teammate was Wandering Gambler, sadly was not able to make it today, so they will be the Williams pairing, so that could be an interesting pairing to watch. Again, certainly would expect them to be competitive. They'll have to kind of wait and see exactly how much. Of course, we're going to be waiting to see them put times out on the board, as both are now going out to start their out laps. Taking a look down some of the rest of the order, we obviously have Oreo African in the McLaren car, just diving into the pits now. But of course, his teammate of Zukost was not able to make it today, so it's going to be very interesting to see where the McLarens could fall into the order. It certainly looks like there was a mistake at some point in the lap for T34R, Oreo African, and James 443. But we're certainly going to have to just kind of wait and see exactly what starts there, as Dodoligo starts his lap for the Haas. And of course, we have both Haas drivers here today. We have both Dodoligo and Kevprod. Of course, Kevprod sitting in fourth at the moment, certainly showing that he has a solid amount of pace and plenty out on the table, as what looks to be a little bit of a traffic jam out there in Sector 3 of many cars on their outlaps, as Dodoligo sets a 27.5 first sector. So it'll certainly be interesting to see where the Haas slots into the order. So I believe that was Bamboo Vegas going 7th fastest, which is certainly a bit of a surprise, but we'll come back to that in a second. Of course, and then the Ferrari pairing is something that should be important to watch out for. Of course, we have Crooner here today, and his teammate of Reese Foot Gaming was sadly not able to make it today. But Crooner, as shown last season, certainly has a very significant amount of pace, and so we're likely to see that Ferrari towards the front of the order for a decent part of the season. Of course, a 1:18.1, not super quick as of right now, but of course it's testing, so maybe testing some setup differences. And it'll definitely be really interesting to see where the Ferrari falls into the order. A pairing that I think could be very interesting after the couple of races that I was commentating on last season, definitely hoping to make a little bit more this time around, is the Aston Martin pairing of Formula Jonah and James. Of course, they were very consistently here a lot of the races last season, and so that pairing, I think especially, is one of the ones that stands out to me as one of the more balanced lineups, and so they could certainly, if they can, keep the car pointing in the right direction, stay out of and keep out of trouble, they certainly have a chance at making a run at potential Constructors' Championship. Granted, they'll have to potentially beat both the Mercedes and the Haas pairing, but that's something that I think is going to be really, really interesting to watch out for throughout the rest of the season. Of course, we have James on a lap right now, I believe up 2/10. We'll have to see as he crosses that Sector 2 marking, if he's up at all. He's up 8/10, so that's significant, and of course he had the issue at the end of Sector 3 on his first lap, so we'll stay on board with the rest of it, as he also has a Red Bull coming up behind him as the Alfa Romeo makes way. And James has another mistake, so potentially dealing quite heavily with those traction zones. Of course, very important to get those couple of traction zones right here around Hungary, and James definitely seems to be struggling with those at the moment. Taking a jump to the Alpine pairing, of course we have Fiery Volcano, who also goes by Ritsu Mitsu, so you'll hear me using either one of those names probably throughout commentary today, who I believe is new. If he isn't, I am sorry, but certainly the first time I'll be seeing him. And he, of course, is paired up with Bamboo Vegas, who I want to say came either first or second. He is okay. So Crooner is our reigning champion in Group 2, with Bamboo Vegas in second. So that's going to be a certainly interesting pairing to keep an eye on throughout the entirety of the year. So the two sitting P8 and P9, of course P1 and 2 in the Drivers' Championship last season. So going to be very interesting to see how all those drivers end up panning out as we see Ritsu apparently diving into the pits here. As drivers are going to be going out on their last couple of laps fairly shortly, and we can jump on for a couple of more onboards. As of course we have both Mercedes cars out, one on a lap, the other on an out lap. Kevin Cal up in that first sector, so we'll jump on board with him before running through the rest of the driver lineups. Of course, really important to get it right through here. Pass by, and that's a yellow flag. That's an Alfa Romeo just giving way to other cars, so nobody out of the session just yet, as Kevin Cal up over a tenth and a half on his initial time. Just going to be looking to keep it clean through these final couple of corners. Just two and just as many traction zones left to go. Got to be careful coming out of this final corner not to light up those rears too much as he comes through. How much can Kevin Cal improve by? He improves to a 1:16.8, so the first one to get into the 1:16s here around Hungary is going to be Kevin Cal. Of course, you have Breakfast King right behind him. He was a 4/10 on his initial time, and he goes much, much quicker. He jumps into a 1:16.5, so a big improvement from Breakfast King here on his LSR return. Of course, Kev Prod, I believe, either just starting or finishing a lap. I believe he's just starting a lap, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on to improve. So we'll keep an eye on that as we've just crossed the 5.5 minute mark to go in qualifying. The AlphaTauri just giving way there, the cause of the yellow flags. And of course, talking about that AlphaTauri pairing, of course, Breakfast King is going to be reserving for Group 2 this season, so he is not a full-time driver. However, the other driver is T34FR, who certainly has some significant pace, definitely returning from Season 3, and his team placed third in the Drivers' Championship in Group 2 last year, and that is LGM. So despite the fact that Breakfast King may not be his teammate, as sitting in Group 1 is a big twitch there from T34, almost putting him in the wall and out of the session, but he's able to get that stopped, and he's just going to have to stay out of the way of the Red Bull and McLaren coming through, so he should be okay to get back on track and get back going. But T34 and LGM, definitely another good pairing with definitely some potential for fighting for drivers and, by extension, constructors' championships. And then taking a look at the last pairing, we do have Omega and Xercity. Again, very, very respectable pairing. Are sitting 8th and 13th right now, but it's a very long race. And can allow both of them to show their racecraft. So let's take a look. As Jim, I believe, jumps up into 10th place. Oh no, that was not Jim. I believe that was Speedy Gunner or Alexis Beast, one of the Red Bulls, jumping up, but will stay on board with the Williams of Jim now, coming through the second sector. Of course, that mid-pack, very, very tight right now, is yellow flags. I believe that's for a Mercedes having an incident, but for right now, we'll stay on board with Jim as he comes out of Sector 2 into Sector 3, up about a tenth and a half, almost 2 tenths, on his first lap time. So certainly going to be looking to jump further up the order from that P10 slot. May be able to get one more run in at qualifying, depending on how much better he can recharge. But the Williams comes out of the final corner and runs up to the line now, and he will jump only up into 8th place, but sets a very nice 1:17.695. So certainly a respectable time for him. Kev Prod will dive into the pit lane, as will Alexis Beast. Is there anybody on a lap? I'm going to try to slot through to the Mercedes. he's coming around. He is not, so I believe everybody's diving into the pits for a quick change of tires, except for the Alpine of Ritsu. Obviously just starting a lap with that battery very full as he comes down into turn 1. You're going to have to be very careful on the power, so very good to see him come out of there very cleanly. And in the run down the hill into turn number 3. Of course, going to be keeping an eye on that timer in the top right to see where exactly that time comes in. But going to be very interesting to see as Ritsu is we'll just call Fiery at this point because I'm going to confuse myself. Up 2/10 in that first sector, so a very solid start to his lap. So definitely going to be important. And there was definitely a mistake. That time indicates that there might have been a mistake at some point in that, as James retires in the pit lane, which is a surprise, not thinking he can get out and set another lap time, or just deciding to stay at the back. But Ritsu Mitsu up 1.6 seconds after making some mistakes, really flirting with the track limits on the outside there, but able to keep it on track and a little bit wide in this final sector, but just maybe able to keep the car that little bit more stable coming out of the final corner now and getting the power down. How far can the Alpine driver jump up the order? He can only stay 16th quickest, so lost a lot of time in that final sector. So going to be disappointing for him. Formula Jonah in the Aston Martin, I believe, just starting a lap as well, so we'll have to keep an eye on where he slots in. Of course, there's going to be the cars behind that are going to be looking to finish that lap. Specifically, I believe that's a Lexus Beast or a Speedy Gunner coming out now. Alfa Romeo to the Omega just came to the line to start the lap, so he'll be looking to jump up the order. Taking a look down, it's mostly drivers starting their laps here. Of course, we have Kevin Cal coming to the line right now. Who I believe was up. He is not able to jump Breakfast King, so he will start P2 at best, just missing out on that pole time by less than half a tenth. But certainly a great showing from Kevin there. Haas crossing the line now. I believe that's KevProd not able to improve. Taking a look at some other parts of the order, I believe that's that is not Breakfast King, that is T34 just starting a lap. He was, I think, up 4/10. He was down 4/10. No, he just started the lap, so it's going to be, he timed up, jump up as Speedy Gunner has invalidated, as has Zersity, but both of them are just starting the lap now. It's just about 10 seconds to go before the end of this qualifying session. It should be easier to track a little bit there, as Formula Jonah jumps up into third for Aston Martin, so a very strong showing from him, looking to be the front of this midfield pack as of right now. As the session ends, Breakfast King still on provisional pole, as he goes even faster now with a 1:16.4. Jim Zersity and Omega also done. The Alpine, I believe, will be next to cross the line. Of Bamboo Vegas, he only improves to 7th, so certainly not a great showing, as Crooner goes 5th fastest. Next across the line should be Oreo Hafrican for McLaren. He was about a 10th down on his first lap time. Can the McLaren improve from 13th position? Here, he cannot. He just goes a little bit slower than that first lap time. KevProd now goes to the line. He goes 5th fastest, so it's a Haas 4.5 at the moment. So very strong showing from them. Looks like it'll be the Viperize who dives into the pit lane to get out of the way of a Lexus Beast. He was up to almost 3/10 on his first lap as he comes to the line now. He goes 3rd fastest, so he'll leapfrog Formula Jonah. T34FR will now come to the line. Can he improve at all? He cannot, so he will not improve from P15. I believe that was Ritsumitsu coming to the line. He will not improve from P16. Speedy Gunner invalidating his lap, so he will not improve. He'll start P12, and then Formula Jonah P4. So certainly very chaotic, and I definitely need to get back into the flow of being able to track everything going on track, as we can see Zersity here without a front wing from an incident on that lap. But certainly expecting an interesting race. Was it after this qualifying session? So it is Breakfast King with a pole time of a 1:16.4, and then about a 10th and change back to Kevin Cal, and then Lexus Beast in 3rd for Red Bull. Formula Jonah is 4th for Aston Martin, followed by the Swede Dodoligo and the the Frenchman Kev Prod in the Haas pairing in 5th and 6th, Crooner in 7th, so certainly surprised to see the Ferrari down there, but potentially just looking to knock the rust off. As we have Viperize, Bamboo Vegas, Jim 111, Xercity, and then Speedy Gunner, Oreo African, Omega, T34, Fiery Vulcan, and lastly James, who just couldn't quite get a clean lap in and ended up backing out of that qualifying and is going to be looking to jump up the order from that P17 slot. So certainly going to be expecting an interesting race around Hungary. We certainly had one yesterday with a full grid of Group 1 action. If you have time, go ahead and head over to the Lightning Speed Racing YouTube tab. Go over to live and give that a watch if you could. That'd be awesome. Definitely hit up all the social links there to keep up to date on the league. And again, if you're interested in potentially joining us for some league racing in the future, be sure to throw a comment down there, and we'd be happy to get you a link to the Discord. We are looking at getting a third group going, so if you're interested in potentially taking part in a whole new group of LSR action, definitely don't hesitate to get involved. But as we cross 30 seconds, as the drivers all go to select their strategy, it should be very, very interesting. Expect a lot of one-stops are likely here in the absence of a safety car. It definitely could be very interesting as to what happens. But as for right now, I think I will leave you with the words of Alex Jack for a couple of seconds.
The formation lap gets underway, and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure their car is ready for the battle once the lights go out.
Alright, so taking a look at the grid, we only have 2 drivers taking the risk to go onto the soft tires in Speedy Gunner and Oreo.
Cars take their positions on the grid.
So
the drivers and teams
again, as we take a look at predicted pit stop strategy brought to you by AWS, most drivers will be on that primary strategy of that mediums to hards, but keep an eye on James at the back, being the only driver today to start on the hard tires. Definitely a surprise to see so many drivers slap on the mediums. As we can see, the number 7 AlphaTauri of Breakfast King get ready to go as all the drivers pull up to their grid slot. And there's that Aston Martin on hard tires at the back, getting ready to go. As we pull up here, should be getting ready to go any second now, as there's your predicted pit stop strategy. Guys, here we go, and we have 5 lights, and we're underway here in Hungary. Looks to be a strong start from Breakfast King off the line as that gap stays, but Kevin Cow 2/10 up the inside, looks to be 3 by 3 almost, as the AlphaTauri getting loose on the background. The Red Bull of Alexis Beat up the inside of Kevin Cow, able to move up into P2 as the order continues to shuffle, but it's Breakfast King retaining the lead. Breakfast King from Alexis Beat. Crooner has jumped up to 6. Kev Prod and Jim swap places. Speedy Gunner and Bamboo Vegas in the background battling side by side, as a brief yellow flag there, but all clean. Ina's cars scatter up the hill into turn 5. It's Speedy Gunner up 2 places there quickly, so taking great advantage of those soft tires early on in this race, as shift all up and down the order as yellow flags. That is an Alpine driver, so that's Fiery Vulcan spun round, as well as the Alfa Romeos of Xercity and Omega in the background, who may have made contact at some point, but it's Breakfast King right now, with about a 3/4 of a second gap to the cars behind, as yellow flag, that is a McLaren, and Speedy Gunner. Speedy Gunner is round and out of this race early here on lap 1. I don't know what happened there, as I was not quite able to see it, but it looked like there was just some side-to-side battling, and things got a little bit too risky, potentially trying to make a move in that Sector 2, which is very, very difficult. And certainly would be one for the stewards on a full race. But it's Breakfast King still leading from lap 1, but we got a nice little, we got a long line behind him. So Alexis Beast is going to be looking to chase after him and keep up. Looks like we're not going to get a security car from that incident, just because the game's deciding it. T34 and James looking to make advantage. He's looking to make a move on T34. who's going to defend around the outside and down the inside into turn 3. Can he make the advantage? There's contact, and T34 is round, so he looked to understeer a little bit out into the Aston Martin of James. Was it sure, Speedy, if I get a chance, I will start a party and then invite you. But that was certainly a little bit of an incident there, as both Alfa Romeos in the pit lane, so it looks like they may have collided and caused damage, which may have led to their spin. But it's still Breakfast King looking to eke out that gap a little bit further. The gap now over a second, as he can try and pull away now and not give DRS. Formula Jonah, Dodoligo, and Crooner are having a quite nice battle. Very close, as the other half of KevProd is looking to get into the battle. As is Jim and Bamboo Vegas just staying in touch there behind them. So looking to keep it careful there. As Crooner up the inside of Formula Jonah, he's going to get the move done way before the braking zone of turn 1. Jonah looking to fight back as he tucks in to that rear wing of Crooner, but it's not going to quite be able to make the move stick down to turn 1 as Crooner defends rather nicely. So decent defending as they continue to battle through that little kink of turn 2 down the hill into turn number 3. Keep it nice and clean through there. So that's going to be certainly an interesting battle to watch to see if Jonah can take that position back off of Crooner as Jim and Bamboo Vegas battle side by side up the hill, and as Bamboo in the Alpine able to move up into P8. So he's looking to make a climb after starting potentially a little bit out of position, potentially go chasing after everybody else. But most of the pack not separated by more than a second. Again, you have the Red Bull of Alexis Beast with a little bit of a twitch there, so potentially getting a little bit of oversteer already. And as you can see, understeering a little bit more there as Crooner and Dodoligo. Dodoligo is round. Was that under traction? It looks like it may have been, but he's dropped way down into 10th. As the other yellow flag was for the Alpha Tauri of T34. So certainly a mistake there from Dodoligo. But of course, DRS active right now. And here comes Alexis Beast right into that rear wing, and Kevin Cal not far behind. And as yellow flag in Sector 3, that is the Haas of Dodoligo again, so potentially just struggling with hot tires. Tires there, as KevProd not quite able to make a move there, as I believe that's the Red Bull and Alpha Tauri battling wheel to wheel. They're side by side as they come through turn number 4. Can Breakfast King defend for now? Alexis Beast run a little bit wide, and they're going to be side by side up the hill through turn number 5, and it will be the Red Bull of Alexis Beast taking the lead here on lap number 4. So that was a very bold move and very great racing between the two, and certainly something we're going to have to keep our eye on as we come through the chicane here for the fourth time of this race. Breakfast King just going to have to look to stay in touch now, but definitely going to be important to see how he fights back, and he's going to have to watch out for the Mercedes of Kevin Cal and the Ferrari of Crooner, who have now pulled right up to the party, and is going to make this a four-way fight for the lead. And of course, that battle in the background is going to continue to rage on for right now, so very important to watch, as you can already see that Alpha Tauri, Mercedes, and Ferrari getting really close to making contact. So definitely keep an eye on that as we come and start lap number 5. Alexis Beast not breaking DRS quite yet, so it looks to be a little bit of a train starting. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. As you can see, Bamboo Vegas get around Formula Jonah there in the background. He'll move up into 6th place and can keep chasing after. His next target will be KevProd in the Haas. But that'll be really interesting to watch. Oreo Hafrigan and Dodoligo going to be battling wheel to wheel. The Haas looking to make a move down the inside as DRS slams shut there. The McLaren driver potentially looking for the cutback, but just not quite able to make that work. And that's Dodoligo looking to recover. He's back up into P11. And is going to give a little bit more space than maybe he needed to as that move was done, but now he can go chasing off after James. But jumping back up to the front, Alexis Beast certainly not pulling away from any of the other drivers, but we do have the kind of two packs starting to form of these front four of Alexis Beast, Breakfast, Kevin, and Crooner, and then KevProd getting that second little pack of 4 of 5 through 8, as that's Viperized out of this race. Did he have a twitch there? He did. You can see that Mercedes in the background. And probably in the wall, and that is our first safety car. Oh, and that's Viperize. Very frustratingly just dropping it, potentially under traction there, just taking a little bit too much curb, and seeing that car bottom out. And that's his race done. But certainly Viperize showing some really solid pace early on there. But this could be a very good sign for Oreo African on those soft tires, as he will take advantage and pit. But that's going to be our second DNF today, and definitely frustrating, as he does pick up a 5-second penalty. So it's a 5-second penalty for the McLaren driver, as T34 also dives into the pit lane. And so that'll be Oreo slapping on those medium compound tires. We'll see what tire compound T34 looks to go to for AlphaTauri, or if any repairs need to be made. He will also be going to medium, so potentially just looking to go a long medium to soft stint. So that could be very interesting. And then here comes Omega for Alfa Romeo. So going to be really interesting to see. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what tires he decides to slap on right before we pull Speedy Gunner in. And he will swap to those white-walled hard tires, so potentially just looking to go to the end. But certainly been an interesting race so far, and I think it's going to continue to be that way, especially with that field now bunched up. Now, if you'll give me a second, I will go get my co-commentator. Let's see. And there we go. All right. Speedy, you just joined in time to respond to Husky. Oh, you've already responded to Husky, I see. But yeah, certainly 2 DNFs already. Certainly seemed to be a decent bit of battling up and down the order, and at least clean for the most part. I don't know if it looked any different on track, but if you want to speak to that at all. Oh, you can't? Okay. No, I think that may be me. Let me, I don't know if I turned, yeah, give me a second. No, that's overlay options. It's camera. Okay, so no, because I think because I didn't start in a party, it's not gonna have the audio. But
It's not mine set to don't be shared, just like
okay.
Breakfast King yesterday.
Was it? Can you say
Yeah,
if
I
you
can
hear
hear
me?
it now.
Okay, awesome. That's much better. What was you saying? You saw a little bit of contact there on lap 1, just a little bit of chaos.
Coming off of turn 4, after I got past Viperize on the outside, it seemed like him and Bamboo made contact, which then started a chain reaction of contact behind me. And once I got to the fast left-hander before the corner that Viperize DNF'd at, my car randomly bottomed out, no sign whatsoever, and steered right into the wall. There was nothing different that I did to yesterday's race or anything. It just wrecked out because apparently EA can't make a decent game.
Well, certainly disappointing, but we're looking to get back underway here as a bit of a late call for the safety car to come in. So and Alexis Beast is away here to begin lap number 8. Going to be looking to break that toe immediately, but got a decent jump, not incredible, as all the cars scramble a little bit behind. Seems to be no shuffling of the order just yet as they come down into turn 1, except for T34 being able to get past Oreo African. It's also making a move on the Haas of Kevprod and almost going back into the back of Kruner's Ferrari down through what is technically turn 3, I believe, is the Haas. A little bit wide, and out onto the AstroTurf is Oreo African, the first to receive a track limits penalty here in Group 2, so congratulations, you win that award. But as we make our way into Sector 2 now, it is still Alexis Beast with the lead right now for Red Bull, and looking to be clean now again, as as I say that, Dodoligo makes a mistake there in the background. So potentially a spin, potentially some contact for the Haas driver, but seems to be lucky to keep it out of the wall. That looks to be just on the exit of the chicane, so certainly interesting to see what happened there.
Right now, I'm keeping an eye on the front of the pack as the battle between Alexis, Breakfast King, Kevin Cal, Crooner, and Bamboo continues to heat up. As we've got a caution, Sector 3, Xerxity is around. He's lost his front wing. He should be able to come into the pits here, though.
Up at the front, we do have Crooner going up the inside to move up into the podium places. Up the inside at turn 1, able to make that move stick on Kevin Cal. Of course, he's going to have to defend down into turn 3, but Kevin under threat from Bamboo Vegas, who's going to make a very bold move. Looks to almost get both drivers around the outside. Not quite, but is able to get Kevin Cal. So Kevin drops into 5th, and both Crooner and Bamboo Vegas jumping up into P3 and 4 and can now go chasing after Breakfast Cake. So almost an incredible move there for the Alpine, but certainly going to be looking to continue to improve there, as both Xerxity and Oreo African have both retired from this race, and so those are our next two drivers who are out of this race. Of course, jumping back up to the front, we have Alexis Beast and Breakfast King separated by only about 0.2, and so Alexis is going to have to defend probably fairly heavily down into turn 1 now, because the rest of that pack is still very close. Of course, going to be very, very tight racing here in Group 2, with this pack really not stretching out much at all as we come across the line to start lap number 10. Of course, DRS enabled, but it will not be an option until next lap, as the DRS detection point is just on the entrance of that final corner.
And we see at the front of the pack, Bamboo trying to make a move around the outside of Crooner, but not able to do it there. He's going to wait a little longer. We've got Kev Prada and Jonah and Jim starting to catch up now to this pack. But Alexis B still able to hold on to the lead. So, could we see a different podium, or do you think that this is close to what we'll be seeing at the end?
I don't think anything can be made until the pit stop strategy really comes into effect. Of course, the Lexus Beast is going to have to start defending from DRS now, as that entire train behind him of that top 6 all has DRS, Formula Jonah being the first driver with a little bit of a gap behind. And of course, James being the only one on the alternate strategy, starting on those hard tires. After starting in P17 at the start of this race, taking a look back up at the front, of course, Breakfast King, DRS wide open at the back. Will he look to make a move down into turn 1? He'll hold off for the moment as that DRS closes. The yellow flag in Sector 3, that's the Haas of Dodoligo, as T34 is able to overtake Fiery Vulcan. So that's the Alpha Tauri up into the points. So both Alpha Tauris in the points as it stands. But again, just all staying constant for right now. Not a ton of looks being available as Dodoligo receives a 5-second penalty. So his day goes from bad to worse. There's a little bit of a twitch there from Alexis Beast, taking him wide at what I believe is technically turn 5, that blind uphill left-hander. And he will receive a 3-second time penalty, which effectively makes Breakfast King your leader. But of course, there's still a lot of racing to go. As we can see, Breakfast King and Crooner almost battling side by side, and Crooner almost looking for the move here through the S's section. Certainly going to be very interesting. Again, just that Ferrari just looking to take every opportunity to get ahead of that Alpha Tauri car as we come through the kind of collect the two little hairpins here. As we look to cross the 11 lap mark to start lap 12. Again, another little twitch for that Red Bull, kind of showing a little bit of a mistake there. Is Bamboo Vegas makes a mistake out of the final corner. Does he have a front wing? It's hard to tell because I can't quite see it from that camera angle. It looks that his car is relatively undamaged. But regardless, he falls right down into 12th. James up into 7th as he looks to complete the move on Jim, as well as Fiery Vulcan re-overtaking T34, but T34 defending down into turn 3. The Alpine looking for the switchback, and they make contact, and T34 is round. So Fiery Vulcan just looking for the switchback down into turn 3. It looked like he spun T34, unless it looks a little bit differently on those drivers' screens. But certainly would be something for the stewards to take a look at as I switch to Dodoligo going into the wall, so he's just really struggling. But jumping back up to the front, it looks to have turned back into a little bit of a three-horse race at the front with Alexis Beast, Breakfast King, and Crooner now really trying to make a getaway. Of course, the Ferrari just taking another peek to the inside on the AlphaTauri, but still not able to make anything stick.
So I've gone back and reviewed the collision between T34 and Fiery Vulcan, and yes, Fiery Vulcan hit the rear end of T34 and spun him. So that incident was 100% on Fiery Vulcan.
As Omega and Vulcan battle side by side, out of the final corner, they're going to be side by side, and it could potentially be a three-way fight between the Alpine pairing and the Alfa Romeo, and Vulcan's going to lose 2 places here. As he'll lose position to his teammate Bamboo Vegas. It's Formula Jonah and James in the Aston Martins in 6th and 7th battling right now. Of course, James's tires likely really coming into their own right now, and so he could take advantage of those hard tires as this race continues. And as I say that, he does receive his first 3-second time penalty of the season for track limits.
We've seen a lot of people get some penalties today, but that is because, as you said during qualifying, this is Monaco without walls. It's a very tight track, and you have to basically make sure that you're staying inside the racing line fully, otherwise you're most likely going to get a penalty.
And of course, it's really tough to overtake around here as we see Crooner looking to make a move around the outside of Breakfast King into that penultimate corner and looking up the inside into the final one. Is he going to be able to wiggle past here? Of course, he's been putting the pressure all over the back of the AlphaTauri driver, going to be looking to tuck in now, but that AlphaTauri just seems to be that little bit quicker in a straight line, whether that's just using a lot more ERS or due to setup choices, but that AlphaTauri just, Crooner can just not quite get past, and that's allowing Alexis Beast to not stop pushing, but keep ahead in front and bring Kevin Cal into the fight.
Oh, and Omega is out. Is that in the pit lane? Yes, it is.
Yes, so that's retirement, I believe, number 5 today.
Yes.
And then Dodoligo, of course, a lap down. So about 11 cars still in this fight on lap number 14.
Looking at Breakfast King and Crooner, Breakfast King has a lot less, or not a lot, but less ERS than Crooner. So it does seem like Breakfast King has been using his ERS to keep ahead of the Ferrari. The Ferrari
was looking for it there. He was deploying that ERS in the run into that corner to try to get the move done early, but going to be looking to potentially make that move done now as we ride on board with the Ferrari. As he's actually going to dive into the pit lane now. And potentially look for that undercut on the AlphaTauri. So it's going to be really interesting to see where exactly he comes out in relation to this battle at the front.
Looking at the ERS of the Red Bull of the Lexus, he is at 73%. He has barely touched his ERS recently, and he's still been able to keep ahead of Breakfast King, who is at 14% now, and Kevin Cal at 19%. So and then the 2 cars behind him also at 13 and 19, with the closest car above the 20% line being Jonah.
So it's going to be very interesting to see when Alexis Beast decides to really pull that trigger and start deploying a lot of this ERS, as well as and it's also important to consider that with that pit window being open, that undercut could be significantly strong, especially with Crooner showing he had a lot more pace, potentially than just being stuck there behind Breakfast King. So how much can he stretch his legs now in a little bit of clean air and potentially undercut these 3 up at the front? And will they make the decision now to pit? The front two of Alexis Beast, as does Breakfast King. Kevin will stay out for another lap. And it seems we may have a rush into the pit lane this lap as Kevin Cal will continue for another lap. It's right on with Crooner here. As
Jonah stays out.
Yep.
Jim comes in.
As Crooner now coming out of the final corner. Let's go ahead and swap back to Alexis Beast coming out now. Where will they come in out in relation to the Ferrari? The Ferrari coming down the pit lane right now. Where will he pop out? It's going to be close as they make a run down into turn 1. Will the Ferrari be able to make the move stick? He looks around the outside, and I believe there was contact between Crooner and Breakfast King, but it seems that there was no damage.
They were both able to hold it, but there definitely was some contact.
But it will be Crooner overtaking Breakfast King here on lap 16 on track. At least for right now, definitely looked to be a little bit of wheel banging, though I think that could have just been due to some cold tire understeer from both cars. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. Now, with with his main competitors having already pitted, it'll be really interesting to see what Kevin Cal does. Of course, Formula Jonah and Bamboo Vegas also probably going to be looking to pit very shortly. But James certainly looking to run that little bit longer on those hard tires, which he started the race on, as here comes Kevin into the pits. So the Mercedes going to be looking to come in. Of course, just going to be making sure to do his thing. No 5-second penalty there, which is solid, which makes James the overall race leader, as Jonah doesn't decide to stay out.
And Bamboo also stays out.
Let's see where Kevin pops out of the pit lane. Of course, the Red Bull of Alexis and the Ferrari of Crooner coming around the final corner now. And where will
Crooner
they come out? It looks to be very similar to that first incident. And it does seem that we're going to have another side-by-side incident of just about, but it will be Crooner sliding back in ahead of Kevin Cal, but both get ahead of Breakfast King. So this four-way battle should continue unless these front two can start to make a breakaway. But of course, the front four are still not having pitted yet, as Kev Prod and T34 swap places, so that's the Haas up into P8 on those fresh, hard compound tires. And he's going to be looking to chase after the back of that pack we were just discussing, who at least at the moment were fighting for the lead.
3 seconds.
Just caught him running a little bit wide, so potentially those hard tires starting to lose a lot of grip and getting a little bit more understeer, as we see his teammate of Formula Jonah in the background, probably looking to come in this lap. I'd be very surprised if he stays out for another, but of course we'll have James leading the way here. He'll, of course, stay out.
Jonah coming in.
And it does seem that Jonah will come in, as does Bamboo Vegas.
So Alexis is going to currently be the leader of the race, but Crooner not too far behind him.
So that's going to be a very interesting battle to watch. Kevin Cal falling off of their battle just a little bit, potentially going to hope that they start fighting a little bit, as Crooner's with a new fastest lap of the race with a 1:20.2. So very solid from the Red Bull. But of course, James is going to be looking to use as much clean air as possible. I believe if
Crooner,
he can.
Crooner's Ferrari, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
Red Bull.
I'm getting those confused, but they are tied at the hip right now, so very much scenes of the 2022 season for the most part. So how long can Alexis Beast defend from the charging Ferrari of Crooner?
And James still holding on to his lead, but it does seem like he's a little loose. T34 around.
That seems to be on the exit of turn number 4, that kind of kink.
And he can't get going straight right now.
Where we saw an incident, as we do have a virtual safety car as of right now, I believe.
James has wrecked it, it seems.
Oh no, James has dropped it. I thought that the Sector 123 was for virtual safety car, but James did drop it. So that's going to lose him loads of time. He still is in the lead of the race, at least for the moment, as he will dive into the pit lane already. So so those hard tires are done. As yellow flag there, I believe that's for Fiery Vulcan. So disappointing, but the battle between Alexis Beast and Crooner now, once again, for the lead. And then Breakfast King
getting really close to the Red Bull's rear wing.
And as they battle down here into turn number 3, will be the Red Bull retaining the advantage. We're going to be looking
also
to continue.
really caught up to Jonah there going into turn 1. He may look for a move into turn 2 here. He's not going to make it.
Takes a whiff up the inside, but hey, given space for very nice racing, you can hear the car on the outside, but able to make that move stick. The Williams maybe with a little bit of a run, but not able to quite get enough room to make a move stick, and so they'll hold position 4 now.
And Kruner still looking for a position over Alexis. He seems to have a little more pace than Alexis right now, as he has more ERS as well, as Alexis has been really dumping it to keep Kruner behind. But we'll definitely see here which of the drivers will come out on top as we go down out of the final corner. DRS activated for Kruner. He's got ERS deployed, both of them do. It's going to be Kruner getting
on the
outside.
Not quite able to make the move just yet. He's going to look for the switchback and make the move down in the run into turn 4. Of course, Alexis is going to continue to fight it.
Back here, but no, Alexis breaks up the same point.
Continues side by side. And of course, Kruner with the inside there. Alexis is going to be a little bit wide, and then retain the lead. He's going to be inside up the hill. And is Kruner going to stick it around the outside there? He is. So very brave move from the Ferrari.
Keeping ahead.
And
that's going to allow Breakfast King to catch up now.
But that's an amazing move there from the Ferrari, able to make that side-by-side move work on that blind uphill left-hander, which can be tricky at times to get right even on your own, much less with a Red Bull on your inside. So very impressive from the Ferrari.
And that allowed Breakfast King and Kevin Kell to catch up now. So, Breakfast King is almost on the back of Alexis again. Alexis is going to have DRS here, though, to re-catch Kruner, but Breakfast King and Kevin Kell will have DRS to catch Alexis.
It is important to note just how much Kruner's been able to stretch out a little bit of an advantage already, of course, that gap up to about a second, so Kruner potentially running a lot more downforce as he has a little bit of a twitch on exit there, losing a touch of time. But not too.
Getting a penalty for multiple warnings. James' fastest lap.
So that would
be.
There was a 1:19.8, but that would be an extra fastest lap point for Aston Martin. So certainly something to keep an eye on here on lap 21 as Bamboo Vegas and Jim swap places. That was a nice little move. I was able to catch the last of it as he went up the inside. So very nice. And Bamboo Vegas, of course, looking to recover back up the order, and is now going to be chasing after the Aston Martin Formula Jonah.
With about 15 laps remaining in this race, we still have a chance for a lead switch, but Kruner seems to be pulling away now as he sets the fastest second sector.
Caution sector 3, that is a hat. That is the lap pass of Dodoligo, as we can see just passing there. But Kruner, I think, just looking to try and run away with it at this point. It certainly showed he had a lot of pace and just wasn't quite able to put it together in qualifying, but in these race conditions seems to be able to really put some laps together, and at this point is going to be looking to just run off into the sunset.
Which will now leave Alexis Beast without DRS and being challenged by Kevin Kell and Breakfast King, which we know they're quick. So let's see which one of these three will get the 2 podium positions that are left, with Kruner running away. Their only chance of really catching him is if he
the Red Bull wingouts on the sausage curve, and almost a major incident. Just ran out a little bit wide.
Was able to hold on to it, though, surprisingly.
Very much a surprise. You could see the kind of dust and maybe even some sparks kicked up in-game there from that car bottoming out, but just running a little bit wide there and almost losing the back end of that Red Bull. So definitely going to be interesting to watch how that car continues, as I believe that's James with an incident up at turn number 5, so he's round. So he's going to drop back off the order, and he's going to be hoping for a safety car at this point, so certainly disappointing for the Aston Martin, and he's going to be looking to do a little bit better. And we head
I'm
to our
pretty
first
sure
weekend.
Alexis, Breakfast King, and Kevin Cal are also hoping for a safety car at this point.
As,
Because
as,
there's no way they'll catch him. But is that Fiery Vulcan that's gone around? No, it's
no,
James
it was
again.
James again, just struggling with a little bit too much tire temperature. Of course, Breakfast King all over the back of Alexis Beast once again, as we saw for a number of times, as Alexis Beast up onto the inside curb and almost losing it a little bit as they run through turn number 3. Of course, drivers using all the track they can, but that AlphaTauri not able to quite find a way past this time, as we have about 13 laps to go, so about 2/3 of the way there. So still plenty of racing left to go, and plenty of chance to be made as yellow flag in sector 2. I believe that's Dodoligo again.
Yes,
So
it is
certainly a disappointing and frustrating day for the Haas, but he's just going to be looking to improve when he can. Of course, as we battle here through Sector 3, going to be really important for Alexis Beast, really starting to struggle a little bit on those hard compound tires, or at least seems to be struggling a little bit on the compound, as Kruner with a 3.5 second gap, and so he's just going to be looking to run away from this fight, which it seems that he should be able to do successfully. That red light is flinging as he goes up the inside. Of course, that red light flashing at the back. As we jump back on board with Breakfast King, it seems that Alexis Beast is able to retain the advantage, as Breakfast King just went
made
a little bit
contact with Alexis's right side pod.
You made a little bit of contact and perhaps made a little bit too tight to be able to get the power down quite as effectively. But of course, that AlphaTauri are going to be looking to take another shot at the Red Bull.
But it is, don't underestimate Kevin Cal. He's right behind as
he's absolutely something to watch out for. I believe that was just a brief one, but of course, Breakfast King now really all over the back of him, and now with a little bit of a mistake, could be vulnerable to Kevin as they make the run down here into turn number 12. Definitely a chance where you can make an overtake, but it's certainly very, very risky to do so. So you don't see it super often. But certainly, if you have the right amount of finesse, you certainly can pull it off.
As Kevin deployed a little bit of ERS there, he's going to have DRS on T34. Or not T34, sorry, Breakfast King.
He's not going to deploy it here, but he's going to be looking to hold back maybe a little bit just for later on in the race.
Maybe a little later, but Breakfast King still has that red light flashing. He has to harvest some more ERS if he wants to get past Alexis Beast. But Kevin Cal on the rear bumper, and I believe that is Dodoligo again that has gone around. Yes, it is.
He's just struggling down there at the end of Sector 3. Of course, going to be looking to do better as Breakfast King a little bit wide on that uphill left-hander. So definitely going to be important to watch as that gap grows a little bit to Alexis Beast. So could Alexis Beast potentially break the DRS train and potentially move ahead as James, with potentially an issue in the battle with Fiery Vulcan, but they swap places. So that's the Alpine up into P9. So whether that was a spin for James or some contact, I'm not quite sure.
But
as the battle for third continues to rage.
He's looking for the position. He could have sent it there, but it would not have been ideal, because it could have caused some contact. He gets close to the rear wing of the AlphaTauri. The AlphaTauri is coming into the pits. He may have some damage.
So was that damage to the front wing from potential battling, or that's going to be something really interesting to watch?
It could have been damage from the contact between Alexis and Breakfast King lap earlier when, like I said, he collided with Alexis's side pod.
It doesn't seem to be. It seems that Breakfast King is instead going to the soft compound tires. So maybe those hards really just not doing it for him and being dead. But for whatever reason, Breakfast King pitting and dropped from P3 and dropping down to P8.
And Dodoligo is out. That seems to be on track as well.
I believe that was an on-track AI retirement, so that car will find a spot to pull off. But because of that battle, Alexis Beast has been able to pull out a nice 1.2 second gap to Kevin. Of course, it's
I
going to be
like this helicopter cam if you're seeing
continuing
it
to
as
close.
well.
I am sadly not right now. I wasn't switching to it at the time, but
I've got a perfect helicopter cam of Alexis as he gets a little squirrely there. But now we're back down to trackside.
yeah, as we make our way through the hairpins now. Going to be 9 laps to go as they cross the line, as James now will pit from P11, so I think just really struggling on whatever set of tires he selected, as Kevin has been able to pull back up into DRS range of Alexis Beast, so this battle for P2 on the podium is going to continue.
But either way, they pretty much locked down the podium positions, Kerner, Alexis, and Kevin. I doubt there's going to be a chance for anyone else in these last few minutes to make it to the podium.
Of course, that's any incidents notwithstanding. Certainly, we don't hope that happens. But of course, had the late incident yesterday that led to a 2-lap shootout, so that certainly could happen here today.
Which Sev actually retired from the lead. He threw away a lead yesterday on that 2-lap shootout
and
safety car.
Certainly, if you're seeing a little bit more action and seeing our premier division of Group 1, be sure to check that out over in the live tab over here on YouTube. And definitely go ahead and hit subscribe if you haven't done that already, just so that way you can be notified when we go live, certainly in 2 weeks at Circuit of the Americas for opening round of Season 4, as well as any other races that we have.
There was an announcement just a few minutes ago. Monza, next weekend, there will be a second off-season testing.
So that will certainly be interesting. Of course, going to be hoping to get as many drivers as we can into that. But certainly subscribe so that way you can see that race, as we can see Alexis Beast and as we can see Breakfast King and Jim. So that's the AlphaTauri moving up into P7 already on those fresh soft tires. So he's going to be looking now to just make as much time up as he possibly can and as many positions as he can too. But certainly some good racecraft from the AlphaTauri. Definitely hoping to see him back. Definitely hoping to see the reserve driver come back at points throughout the season as he hits a purple first sector. But he's showing some really solid pace today, and definitely would be glad to have him around fairly consistently.
Right now, I'm watching Kevin Cal versus Alexis Beast. They're sticking close. And Kevin Cal, although lower on the ERS, will have DRS down the front straightaway. Do you think he could make an overtake on Alexis here for P2?
It's certainly interesting, of course, that gap being about 0.4 of a second, and Alexis Beast not really getting the greatest run out of the final corner, but just seems to be deploying that little bit more ERS and pulling away, even without DRS, from Kevin Cal. I'm not sure if that was ERS deployment, but certainly the Red Bull has a fair amount of DRS left in the tank.
Well, there is something that we should note between these two. Alexis runs medium traction control, where Kevin Cal is running full traction control. So it's going to allow Kevin to get out of the corners a little quicker, but I think it should still anyways be Kevin P2 with the amount of penalties Alexis has racked up.
That, of course, is something to consider, as the penalties could continue to rack up as Bamboo Vegas and KevProd, as well as another battle to keep eyes on, and definitely is a battle we'll switch to if these two ever get pulled a little bit apart. Of course, Bamboo Vegas looking to recover after an earlier incident. Of course, the runner-up in the Drivers' Championships last season. Potentially going to be looking to unseat Crooner this season, as James sets a new fastest lap of the race in P10, so that would be 2 points as of right now. But of course, Breakfast King on those softs could be threatening that time, as Alexis Beast defends tight to that inside pit wall, but again, just seems to pull that little bit further away, and is able to pull nicely away from the Red Bull. So certainly going to be interesting to watch. Going back a little bit, Bamboo Vegas was able to get KevProd and move up into P4, which sadly missed, but it's certainly impressive that he was able to make that mistake before turn
As
1, because that's certainly not easy.
T34 was the cause of that most recent caution. He's the next car that was a lap down now. He spun going into turn 1, it seems, but he's gotten back going. Sadly, we'll only have 11 finishers today. But
Of course, the first of which is Crooner, who's really he started towards the back of the order. I believe started P7 or P8, and has just ran a really nice, clean race up to this point. I was right on board there for a second, coming down through Sector 3 now. But Crooner definitely looking like a very, very strong force for the championship this season. And looking to start that off with a dominant performance here in testing.
But definitely Crooner's got some pace. During qualifying, we definitely thought he was a little slower than what we were used to, but now we're seeing that he's definitely got a little more pace than what he was showing during qualifying.
Of course, as Lexus is able to keep Kevin behind for yet another lap, so that Red Bull doing a very nice job to keep the Mercedes behind for now, but of course is going to have to pull out a bit of a further gap in order to retain that position as a little bit of a wiggle.
With a little switch.
Able to keep that car under control, though. So should be able to keep moving in the right direction. Of course, Kevin will be loving the sight of that.
But we definitely will see these two battling till the last lap. I think it will be Alexis finishing ahead on track. Of course, with the penalties, he's going to finish behind Kevin Callis. We have a caution.
I believe that's one of the Alpha Tauris. I'd assume that's
T34.
I assume that was. I assume it was T34. Just giving way to Jonah very briefly as the battle between Jonah and Kevprod continues to draw closer. As that Aston Martin is going to be potentially looking to make a move up into P5 ahead of the Haas. So that's certainly going to be something interesting to watch on these last couple laps. As again, Alexis Beast just able to keep Kevin Cal behind as the Mercedes takes a peek to the inside, but not quite able to find anything.
It looked like Kevin could have been close enough to make an ambitious move, but then again, looking at Breakfast King's move on Alexis earlier that caused a collision, he might be thinking that could have given himself damage, as Alexis with another twitch.
So potentially
Alexis
really
seems to be struggling a little.
Potentially struggling with a combination of tire wear and just getting a little bit too much up onto that curb. Could be a struggle for that Red Bull over these last couple of laps.
But right now, I'm just watching Kevin Cal versus Alexis Beast, because this right now is the most entertaining thing I'm seeing. But
of course,
Crooner 10 seconds now ahead of Alexis.
And of course, Kevprod and Jonah getting closer, so that could be another battle to keep an eye out for. Is once again, here we go down the front stretch, another little twitch, and so not a great run out. But once again, once we get up into that high 7th gear and into 8th gear, Alexis Beast just able to pull a little bit more away from Kevin Cal. So whether that's a mix of wing choice and setup,
Kevin and
all
Alexis
that
are starting to get close on ERS now, so that could screw over Alexis.
So certainly very interesting. As Breakfast King does pit again, which is certainly strange, whether that's just for a fastest lap for the testing purposes, as he will change his front wing, so potentially there was damage from that attempted overtake. But that's certainly something interesting to watch. And as well, Formula Jonah up to the back of Kevprod now with 3 laps to go. So the Aston Martin going to be looking to potentially make that move, get that move done before the end of this race. Is going to be attacking the curbs through that chicane. But once again, the gap up there for second place has been hovering around this 5 to 6 tenths point at the middle, at about the end of Sector 2. Drops to about 4 tenths, and as low as 3 through these hairpins. but then just really gets lengthened right back out once you get down this main straight.
But Kevin might be holding onto a little more ERS than Alexis, but Alexis not even using any ERS this time.
Of course, 2 laps to go now, so Kevin realistically is going to have one more shot at this move, so that's going to be a move to keep an eye on here.
And the Jonah
lap 34.
Kevprod battle, they both have no ERS at all. And they're both right
14.
behind James.
So could James potentially look to... So James could potentially just use the ghosting as an excuse to keep pushing.
Kevprod, another penalty.
So he's pushing rather hard. So we make our way through Sector 2. How close can Kevin Cal get now? This is going to be really important to get these couple of corners right, because you got to really chain Sector 2 together in order to give yourself the best opportunity to overtake down at Turn 1 and again at Turn 3, because otherwise you just kind of get stuck in a little bit of a DRS train. So it's going to be really important to see what happens as Kruner now crosses the line to start the final lap of this Hungarian Grand Prix testing. But keeping the eyes on Alexis Beast and Kevin for the moment, that gap a little bit bigger than it has been. 4.5 tenths now. Of course, that Red Bull going to be looking to just kind of run away from that Mercedes. I don't know if the Mercedes just not quite able to find the chance to get past. Of course, going to pull up in that braking zone, but of course the Red Bull going to pull right away. So it should be Alexis Beast in the lead. But again, a very good race from Kruner in the Ferrari. Of course, starting towards the back, making a number of really nice overtakes, including, if I remember correctly, that brilliant one around the outside on the uphill of Turn 5, which was a very, very impressive move. And good to see that level of clean racing as he makes his way through Sector 2.
Right now, for positions moved, you have Kruner up 6th, as Breakfast King sets the fastest lap as a 1:18. But Kruner up 6, Alexis up 1, Kevin down 1, Bamboo up 5, Kevprod up 1, Jonah down 2, Jim up 3, Breakfast King down 7, Fiery and James both up 7, and T34 up 4.
Of course, very interesting. But Kruner for Ferrari does win. Kruner for Ferrari does win here for testing here at Hungary. So congratulations to him.
Alexis on track getting second.
So Kevin Cal will take it after penalties. In the background, that is Bamboo Vegas also jumping Alexis Beast, and then Kevprod, so he will kick Alexis Beast off the podium, followed by Kevprod, and then Jonah will take P5 ahead of Kevprod after penalties. Jim for Williams will come around to finish in 7th. Of course, James rounding out in 10th there, being the lap or 2 down. Jim will finish 7th, and then Breakfast King making his way around will finish P8. Of course, Fiery Vulcan, I believe, having already finished, may have already finished as well. But there's Breakfast King Line finishing 8th. Showed some really solid pace, but just received a little bit of damage in that battle with Alexis Beast, potentially a little bit too ambitious up the inside.
It seems that it was between Kruner and Breakfast King, as Kruner has just apologized for contact with Breakfast King. Now Breakfast King said it's not him that gave him damage, so I'll keep an eye on the chat.
But that was certainly very interesting. Definitely a good race. Of course, driver of the day goes to Bamboo Vegas. But again, certainly a very interesting race to watch. As we can see, the Ferrari driver coming down the tunnel here to celebrate on the podium. But certainly a very interesting race to watch, and definitely can be excited for not only the testing next weekend at Monza, but also the opening round at Coda.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting next week. We'll see who's able to get ahead around Monza, which I do believe we have Monza on the schedule. Unlike Hungary.
I believe we do not have Monza on this season's calendar, sadly.
No,
actually
we do
pull
not.
it up right now, but I believe we do not. But once again, your final order is Kruner from Kevin Cal, Bamboo Vegas from Alexis Beast, followed by Formula Jonah and Kevprod. Jim 111 finishes 7th for Williams, followed by Breakfast King in 8th. Fiery Vulcan finishes in 9th with James, rounding out the top 10. And then you have T34 and your non-finishers of Dodoligo, Omega, Xercity, Oreo, Viperize, and of course you still have Speedy Gunner with that early incident. But certainly, again, a very interesting race, very fun to watch and very fun to commentate, and definitely has me excited for the rest of this Group 2 season.
Well, we'll see you next week for Group 1.
For sure. Definitely look forward to seeing you next week. Be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button down below if you haven't done that already. Be sure to follow us elsewhere. Hit all those notifications to make sure that you're ready to go when we get back underway in a week's time. And hope to see you then. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.